established Margaret River Hemp Company many years ago, and then they diversified into farming hemp and building with hemp and so forth. So welcome, Gary.
Yeah. There we go. Yep. If you just went back to that screen, that would be pretty good. Oh, there it is. Well, we've been in the industry for a long time. 94, nearly past half my lifetime, and we kind of got into the industry. Back in '94 and back in the '90s, there actually used to be a few more hemp shops, and it used to be, I think it was about six in WA. Over that time, they all shut down. I think cotton really took over. Hemp became real taboo and real, it just kind of went right off the radar. We were just a little shop, just selling clothes in the industry. Kind of always knew what to do with the hemp industry, but actually the journey began on trying to educate people, and that became the big challenge. And nobody listened. It was marijuana. That's it. The stigma, all of that really built up. To the point that we only 8 years ago, you couldn't sell a shirt with a leaf on it, even though top to toe in hemp, it's the best clothing. We had our sativa brand, we had our clothing brand. We still have people come to the shop after 25 years going, look at my clothes. Fast fashion's got to finish. So after 25 years and they're still wearing your clothes, it's not a good industry to be in the retail, let me tell you. Selling one pair of jeans every 25 years. That's how we kind of started on that. Then we probably overcapitalised. GFC hit. We opened up a big shop in Fremantle. Went way too big. Still living in our hemp bubble that we live in. It's a great bubble to be in, by the way. And just still paying that shop off today. Just totally overcapitalised. Didn't get the customers in. Just education. The whole thing about this whole industry is about education, and we keep going back to that. You guys have probably been, you're all here, you know about hemp, but I'm telling you right now, the majority of people still do not understand hemp. It's marijuana and the stigma with it. And I think the big breakthrough was when Olivia Newton-John came out and, Australia's golden girl, she's having marijuana, cannabis. That was the change. That's what I can see in the industry. So as I was saying, only 8 years ago, we had to cut every single label off the side of the clothing because it had a marijuana leaf on it. The older generation did not want to be associated with that leaf. Now, you hold a leaf up. Everybody knows what that leaf is, whether it's going to be marijuana or now we are starting to see it is the hemp. And as I said a bit earlier before, we've heard all the jokes. I should open a joke shop, with hey, can I smoke your shirt? Mate, you can do whatever, just give me your money. And it's like, you can do whatever you want, and we're not getting them jokes anymore. Like, we're at the forefront of people taking hemp seriously. If you want to see the future, look at it's the past. It's all there. It's all right. So part of the journey then, I suppose, overcapitalised, GFC hit. We then, basically my wife enrolled me in the course with Clara. And I'm a registered builder, by the way, and said we should have a look at hemp building. That began the whole next journey of where we kept going in the hemp industry. I was building my house, sustainability. I was very much into that as well, recycling things, I think halfway through that course, with Clara's course, I kind of, oh my God, what have I just done? I should have built my hemp house. So I think I finished that course. And then I was approached by a lady just going, oh, you can build hemp houses. And I went, yeah, sure I can. I had no idea. No, I suppose, there was nothing built in Western Australia. There was no backup. It was balls on the line, really, let's just do this. And then a lot of research and I think the help with Clara, but then became the breakdown of the barriers. First of one was trying to educate everybody. And that was your counsellors would not approve it. Why? I don't know. It's marijuana, And then you had the QBE, you had the insurance, then you had the bankers. Never has a builder. I have to go into banks and plead with bank managers to loan the client some money to actually build a hemp house. So it was such a long road to actually get approval to actually build the hemp house. Then once we started building the hemp house, obviously get the joke, start again, get the firefighters, light it on fire, all stand around, be happy firefighters. But that kind of resonated me a little bit more with education, because now everybody kind of hears about hempcrete. They kind of go, wow, how's them hempcrete houses? Have you ever been in one? Have you ever seen one? Have you ever touched one? The majority of you probably wouldn't have, but most people resonate. They're good. They're really, really good, and that's the education process. By the way, they are really good. They're unreal. They really tick the boxes. So we started Hemp Homes Australia. Obviously, then, and Georgie, her side of it, with 15 years in our body care, we understand your skin's your biggest absorber of your body. Your hemp seed oil is just an amazing part to be part of that. We have now 32 ranges of skincare ranges that probably outsells our clothing. It's very, very good. We have a massive customer base who just keep coming back with our hemp foods and our skin, our clothing, and that's just another branch that we went on to. Then, I suppose after that, with the hemp housing, I think I was always trying to support Bob Doyle and Australian hemp grown and hemp masonry to try and get an industry started. Obviously, the mill closed down in where was the mill again, Colin? Dungog, sorry. I was nearly going Dun Agro then, but yeah, Dungog, yep. So, and then we'd signed contracts to build another hemp house. So the only other option was I had to import the herd from England, then COVID hit. We didn't have hemp in Australia, and I'm a hempcrete builder, and I'm Hemp Homes Australia, and we can't even get hemp into Australia. So that kind of pulled the trigger onto building the processing plant. Now, to back that up, going back to the re-education, I was doing a few PowerPoint presentations, trying to educate the politicians about that. And basically, if I do a PowerPoint presentation, they just take me to pieces. So I swore I'd never do a PowerPoint presentation again. And so 2017, we got our hemp licenses to grow crops, so I grew a crop. And that's where I did my PowerPoint presentations, to educate the politicians, these people who make the rules. And when you stand in a hemp crop, it changes everything, because you can touch it, you can feel it, and that really started to change things. I think once we finished that, I stood there and went, what am I going to do with this crop? There's no processing equipment. We didn't even have a harvester. We had nothing. So that's when I ended up purchasing I got online. I was going to go to China, have a look for some machinery, and I ended up getting a decorticator. That became the journey of the processing, and that's how it all started. So ended up getting that mill that you just seen, Phil Warner's mill. I ended up purchasing that, probably all strewn around Australia. We put that back together, obviously modified that, and we are now going into hemp processing. Plus being with the builder, and I think identifying as a building material, I wanted a better building grade. Going right through the different types of herd and fibre, the finer bits, your thermals, everything. Why we're building a hemp house, it's because of your thermals. Now, being in Margaret River, that's where rammed earth first started. I thought if we're ever going to get this hemp housing starting in Western Australia, it's going to be in Margaret River, because they're a bit more alternate. And a lot of Europe, and they render over. I think with the Australians, we're so used to the rammed earth, they love the off-form look. So, it takes a bit harder to get that forming. Obviously, there's cracking issues, all these other type of issues. Whereas I'm such a believer in now understanding the fibre and the herd content was making a different building grade herd, which actually clumped together a bit more, which now we've done 4 houses out of not single cracking, and they come up really beautiful. So I can now understand, you start moving into processing, it's a love-hate relationship. It is really, really difficult. But it's also rewarding when you get to the end and you actually achieve something, because there's no, as Phil said, there's no rule. Every single processor is going to have every single result. If you think you're going to plug this in and press play, forget it. It ain't going to happen. It is so difficult to use, and it's very, very difficult, fibrous machine. It's dusty. You can have a fire. blockage, and this is heavy duty machinery. So occupational health and safety has got to come into a lot of this now. You have to care for your workers. We are very, we are fully masked up. We're headsets, we're everything. We really watch things that, we're not doing cowboy stuff. Because you're going to go to jail. With the new legislations through, you've got to look after every one of your workers. So that's a big part of what you do in the processing side of things, is occupational health and safety. So we have massive dust suppression. It is a dusty plant. Apart that journey, as you still do it though, but now we capture everything. I'm actually selling dirt and selling the dust. So instead of going in the paddock, we're now making renders out of the dirt and the dust mixed together with the fines, and there's big contracts now coming in our hemp renders. We're just finishing a house now with our natural hemp renders. It is Airbnb. It is a really high-end house. I believe this is as far as we kind of can go into hempcrete building, is to be able to be like Tesla. Like, you're going to be seen to be green. It's such beautiful. The thermals and everything about it. So, and with our natural clays, we've used everything back from the paddock, 7 k's up the road from where we've actually grew it, harvested it. So it's been a bit of a journey in the hemp world, and it still keeps going. I love it. I could not see myself doing anything else. It is such a great way to be. Everyone you talk to always nods their head. There's not too many people that shake their head side by side, because I think everybody believes it. And one thing, when you go into a hemp house, everyone just walks in and they touch the walls. And we are drawn to this plant in one way or another. So, what we did, I've just made a little bit of a video. We've got YouTube videos of what we do, and it's broken up in different sections of processing, but we've just done a little 5-minute one. I'm happy to ask any questions on it, but
After.
as I said... Sorry?
After. Questions after the next one.
So, anyway. Sound on that one?
Just talk through it.
Right, I just all documented the sound.
It's just
Well, that's me in the crop, and there's me again. So this is part of the crop. This is a fully organic crop. Hadn't been 15 years, no chemicals on the land. I just said that's my housing estate, because there's 10 houses. So it's a different way of looking at it. That's our cutter. That was the game changer. I hand harvested the first crop, and it was a nightmare. And if you'd seen that first shot that Phil had, it just wraps around everything. The harvester changed everything. It cut it into 600 billets, which totally changed the way, the whole system. So you've got to work with your processor. So most of your processing is done in the field, and you've got to cut it correctly. You have to work. What does your processor want? Because the farmer has to work with him, because we will not accept any bales that have not been processed correctly, because it's such a harder way to process if it's not been cut. What I'm just trying to explain to here is it's because it's organic, with just 40 kilo out of the hectare, you had no more weeds growing underneath. There's no weed suppression. All the shade leaves are falling back down on the ground. Did we water this crop? Don't know about that one. We've done a lot of dry land. So I can show you 2 different dry lands this year, a K up the road, one absolutely successful, one failure, but now it's actually it's come back alive again. It's about that high now. It's just a seed crop everywhere. So we're going to harvest that now for grain. That's your planting ratio. As I said, the cutter was the game changer. That's carrying on like a pork chop, saying if you haven't got a processing facility, don't even put it in the ground. You're going to waste your money. You've got to know where you're processing, what is your output, and you're just going to, like we had the first crop, we wasted our money because there was no processing. This is basically showing you the building grade herd that we made. This is just sneaking over the line. I had 1 bale left in Western Australia to make that house. And I actually had to use a lot of that from grain. There was a few different crops, seed crops and all that to actually pull off that first house before we started growing and on a bigger scale. So that was kind of saying, cut it to 600 billets. That's the redding process. Now it's on the ground, drying. We'll come back and we'll flip it over in another 2 weeks. And then we start roll baling. Just showing you that's kind of when you pull it apart. That's what they used to do in the old days. In the paddocks, they used to... and when they didn't process, they processed by hand. You can still pull it off. So as I said, the cutter was the game changer for us. This is part of the mill. Got set up, as we said, we've got guards, dust suppression, bulker bags. With my building sites, that's the fifth sets of bulker bags been returned back to the job site, to the processing side. We've gone away from plastic packaging in our housing. Each house would have had about 400 bags, roughly 300 to 400 bags of plastic, which would go to landfill. Now we're reusing our bulker bags. I give them for free. They come back. So we just keep recycling them bulker bags and truck them off, and that's in our local region. Yes, we have got a bagging machine. We've just had that built. Once again, this is all part of dust tower, dust suppression. There is money in dust. When we first began, people were saying to me, I'll take your waste. There's no such thing as waste. Not if I'm selling dirt and the fibre, and then we're rendering the house. It's all a product. So if anybody says to you, if you're processing, I'll take your waste, just ask them, well, you go harvest in it, and I can guarantee you'll have another business. This is probably explaining a little bit more about how we built, how you tamper, and about carbon negative. If we're just growing the crops up the road, and this is what's about carbon, it's 7K turnaround from the crop to the processing facility to build this house. That's like, for me, that's like the motto, where you can grow your own home in 14 weeks. So that's a video.